Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Inspirate Business, where we're here to inspire, to empower, and to enlighten you. And we are now hot on election fever, and we are featuring people that are inspirational, that are doing amazing work as servant leaders. Now, I had the privilege of meeting this gentleman who leads up a new party on the election ballot papers that's coming up. And this is somebody who we see on our televisions. We've seen him over the years on the parliamentary debates, but is just always speaking the truth to power. And it's an absolute honor to have him on our show. We welcome Ahmed Mansoor Sheikh Imam, the leader of the AM4C party, Allied Movement for Change. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and good day to all our viewers out there.
Good, wonderful to have you. Now, Ahmed Mansoor, as we have on our show, we've seen you on our televisions for the last, how many years have you been in the political space?
Well, Parliament itself 10 years, and 3 years before that I've been a member of the Tegwini municipality as a councillor, member of the Municipal Public Accounts Committee there. But as you know, in Parliament itself, we have over 40 committees, and I've been in various portfolio committees. But over and above that, I think I've participated, particularly when it comes to the debates and the adoption of the budget reports and things, on all 40 committees. There were times that I would be participating in 4 portfolio committees at the same time, with 4 devices open, listening to the police committee, listening to the finance committee and other committees. There were times 4 devices all next to each other, watching, listening, making notes, and then interrogating them. And very importantly, there were times where the adoption of certain reports and things, particularly budgetary reports and things like that, there were presentations or debates taking place concurrently. Before Parliament was burnt, we had 3 different chambers, the new Parliament session, premises, the old assembly, and we've had E247, which was another venue. So there are 3 venues. And I remember that I used to request that they try and help me, because I'm alone, and they put me higher up on one list, a little lower in the other list, and I'll run as soon as I finished in one venue to the next venue to meet that one, and then run to the next one. Sometimes it didn't work, because some of the other smaller parties will not participate, so even I'm higher and lower, we end up at the same space. But I've had a lot of assistance from the presiding officers who will always try to accommodate me, provided it was before the DA and the ANC, who would be the last 2 speakers. Of course, they've had previous speakers too, but final speakers. But alhamdulillah, we managed to do that. Now, with us doing most of it on a virtual platform, because of Parliament still having been to be renovated and reconstructed, those sessions are taking place on Zoom. But again, some political parties don't participate, so I'm watching this device, I'm watching that, and from here I'm getting to the other one. But I think I love what I do, and that's why I could have very easily just taken one and left the other 2. But I love what I do, and I want to contribute to everyone. I want to raise the concerns where there are weaknesses. I want to point out where there's successes, so that we could strengthen, where we have weaknesses and things. So yes, I was often asked, how do you do it? How do you manage, with all these different debates? But I think I do it because I want to do it, because I believe I owe it to the people.
And look, that comes out very strongly. We've had some interactions. I've got to meet you recently, and what comes across very strongly is that passion for South Africa, despite all our challenges, is to, your focus on fixing these challenges. And then this, you speak about getting involved in all the committees, is this tireless work ethic. I mean, your travels, I know you do a lot of work in communities as well. And you come out of Durban, right?
Yes, indeed.
All right, so we'll talk a lot about our challenges. We've got a lot, South Africa's got a lot of challenges, and
Of course,
also
yes.
around AM4C and how you, as a new party, are able to address those challenges. But let's get to understand yourself. You said born in KZN. Can you just tell us a little bit
Yeah,
about
first
the
of all, my
history?
surname is Sheikh Imam. I'm not a sheikh and I'm not an imam.
Okay.
Ahmad Manzoor is the first names. But my grandfather, whom I've never met, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant him the highest place in Jannah, was an imam. My father and his uncles were very much involved in community activities. I know they started the Chatsworth Islamic Society and the Meerwent Islamic Societies. I had an uncle who was very highly placed in the Football Association in South Africa. I have a brother who's been a director of the 2010 World Cup, member of the South African Football Association, a vice president, of course, of the South African Football Association, and also, so, you know, we have, it's a family history, and I think that's where we pick it up. Very importantly, I was a youngster, very tiny little fellow, spoilt, will go everywhere my dad went.
Right.
Not negotiable. I will scream and I will cry, but I have to go where he had to go. He had a business, a Capital Footwear Manufacturers, where he used to make shoes. And every weekend, I was with him the entire weekend at the factory.
And at what age was this?
7 years old,
Wow.
8 years old, 9, I was with him. I had to go where he was. And I learned a lot from him, you know, how he looked after these workers every Friday. And I'm talking about a long time ago, how he take care of his workers, make sure they get naan on those days, give them biryani lunch and take some stuff home. But he said something very significant to me. He said that before the sweat of your workers dry, always make sure they get paid.
This is a hadith, I believe, of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Yes, and that's what my father taught me then. So the significance of how we should treat our servants and our workers was very important. But having been spending so much of time with him and looking how they've been, you know, community activities. Every Sunday they used to have this Islamic Society meetings. I remember very old school called Bayview School in Chatsworth, and I used to go with him. And so yes, we had that relationship, you know. But I learned that life is about serving people, particularly when they used to go out and give food hampers and be there and whatever it is. I was also very popular with my old people, my grandmother, my father's mother. Everywhere she went, I went. And then I actually went to work part-time on weekends to get some additional pocket money. And the first thing I'll do is when I come back, I must give my grandmother. And I remember her, the way she used to, impeccable dressing in white. And I went everywhere with her. Not that I needed to go and work part-time, because I was spoiled. I must be honest with you. Everyone in my class will only be watching my desk, because there'll be marshmallows, there'll be sweets, and we used to buy in school these samosas and all that stuff.
Yes.
So all will be watching, teachers teaching, quickly eating. So that was it. So there was excitement. But my mother taught me one thing very important. And now when I realize that how important it was, and that is why I always say, your mother, you know, I've created this quote. You can have everything in the world, and if you have no mother, you got nothing. You can have nothing in the world, but if you got your mother, you have everything. Now,
Powerful.
when I was coming from school one day, my mother came looking for me, and I was walking with my friends. And she saw me with these friends, and I promise you, she insulted us, she embarrassed me. She said, I don't want to see you with these boys again. These fellows smoke cigarettes and all those things. They're bad habits. I don't want you to join them. I felt hurt. I felt embarrassed, upset. But let me tell you, about 5 years ago, I decided to go and visit somebody in Chatsworth that was in school with me many years ago. So I go to his house and I knock and I said, I'm looking for a friend, Robin. Oh, my brother, yes, where is he? No, he's there in the back. So I go to the back room to see him, Brother Yusuf. And what did I see? There is this friend of mine on the floor, drunk out of his mind. Out of his mind, couldn't even speak, nothing. And I'm trying to explain to him who I am and whatever. But it made me think what my mother said to me many years ago about the friends you're keeping. I could very well easily have been influenced by what he was doing.
You could have been him. You could have been
Could have
Robin.
been him. Look at the advice that a mother gives a child, how much she must love her child. But be that as it may, so that's why I learned to get involved in community activities. I was spoiled when I went to school, like I say that. I participated in debates, and I was saying last night to an advocate that I was speaking to that we have a water crisis now. But I did a debate in 1970.
I'm going to stop you there. I want to discuss this because this is very pertinent. We've come to the end of this first segment. Listening to this fascinating story and the story behind the person who we see on our screens in parliamentary debates, who stands up and fights for the Palestinians' rights, Ahmed Mansour. Let's catch the story immediately after the break. You're watching Inspirate Business, and on the Red Hot Couch, sponsored by Aza Collective, we have none other than Ahmed Mansour from the AM4C political party. The AM4C stands for Allied Movement for Change. You are the president of the AM4C. Now, you were sharing with us this fascinating, rich history in community activism, and then your involvement with in politics. Now you are contesting this, what I would term probably one of the most important days in the trajectory of South Africa, the 29th of May, where I think after since 1994 is probably the most important one. I mean, there's so many discussions, so many conspiracy theories, and everyone's talking about how there's this move around regime change and a lot of our own doing with all the problems in this country. Tell us a little bit about why AM4C, why this your home right now. What do you stand for in the context of this South African challenges that we've experienced over the last years? I mean, there's all this fracturing of political parties, split in the ANC, with MK being formed, and then with the DA and all these other parties in the Western Cape. Where does AM4C play and within the broader context?
All right, you can call it Allied Movement for Change, AM4C, or you can call it Ahmed Mansour for Change. But having said that, I think being in Parliament, particularly for 10 years, and being able to participate in all 42 portfolio committees and or departments, having a great understanding of where we were, where we are, where we want to go, very importantly, what the strengths are, what the weaknesses are, where we've gone wrong, where we can correct. It said to me that if we continue in the path we are, then, and this is one of destruction, it means that there is going to be no future in South Africa for the generations to come. Now, one cannot just talk about what is in the best interest of only your family, because the entire South African public is your family. And you have a responsibility not only to protect them, but to conduct yourself in a manner that you can be proud of, that you've made a difference so that the generations to come can benefit from it. Now, some may argue we received a beautiful country. It's not entirely true. We've had various challenges. Perhaps one of the biggest mistakes we made, and perhaps the only mistake, is that we took a liberation movement which knew nothing about governance and put them into the deep end and said, now go and govern. And in that process, we found this problem of entitlement, selfishness, greed, and an opportunity to enrich oneself rather than what the actual struggle was all about.
Which was to serve the people.
To serve the people. This is why I always say politicians are the servant of the people, not the other way around. And I'm not saying this with any ego, my brother. I feel so good that when I meet people on the streets, in the malls, wherever it is, and they say, we follow you, sir. Thank you very much for what you're doing. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for addressing that. It's not the money that matters. It's not the name. It's not nothing but the fact that people appreciate you. You know, and I find this wherever you go. I was in Mall of Africa with my grandson, 7-year-old. People stop you and they say, I was in Plettenberg Bay not long. Exactly wherever you go. It's a sense of that people appreciating what you're doing. Now, I wasn't going to go and come back into politics. I said, well, hold on. Perhaps maybe I should be resting and relaxing a bit. But I've had calls from all quarters. You have to go back. We need you there. And that is one of the motivating factors. And then I realized there's a lot of work to do. And I've realized that the only way to bring South Africa back on the path of success and prosperity is to identify the right kind of people to be in politics. Right now, the understanding is it's about going there. Anybody can go if you can sing and dance, even if you can't read and write. If you're going to make money, that's what they're going for. I'm saying we need to identify that I have a passion, who have integrity, who have Islamic ethos, principle. What is Islam? A way of life. Politics is a way of life. Now, the way we grew up, if a neighbor, anything happened in a neighbor's house in the entire community, and if you heard about it at 12 o'clock, at midnight, you got up and you went there. It's gone. It's not there anymore. Something happens next door, you sleeping peacefully. Yeah,
exactly.
That person is having a 5-course meal. That person is hungry. Those are some of the things that prompt me to do some of the community works I do, feeding schemes. You can talk to the homeless people all over the streets of Cape Town. They'll tell you the empowerment programs that I've got, the beauty cause, producing the first hairdressers for South African local hairdressers, barbers, sponsoring football teams, taking them out of the townships, you know, doing awards day for many schools to motivate them, you know. So I do it because I love what I do. It's not about the money. But in Parliament, I found every political party wants power and control, attacking one, forgetting about all their weaknesses among themselves. And I've been pleading with them, let's find solutions in the interest of the people, because you're attacking each other, grandstanding, you're not going to achieve anything.
And the people's suffering.
People are suffering. So I realize there's this weakness. We need to get the right kind of people in. It's the only way this country is going to. Otherwise, I want to tell you as I speak to you today, not long from today, you'll be better off to go live in Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe is going to be a better country than South Africa. Zambia is already progressing. Look at where Rwanda was with us, and look at where Rwanda is today. I want to be very honest. None of those political parties that were in Parliament now are sincere about fighting corruption. I want to be very honest. Nobody's interested in dealing with corruption. Why? Because every party, wherever they govern, are benefiting from that corruption. That's how they sustain themselves. Ask yourselves a simple question. Where is these hundreds of millions of rands coming in all these posters and T-shirts and food parcels and everything? That is why I say one of the reasons we have corruption and the root cause is the people themselves. I'll give you a good example, Radisha. If I say to you, I am sincere, I want to make a change for you, come and listen to me, nobody's going to come. I have to give them food, I have to give them T-shirts, I have to provide the transport. They won't come otherwise. But where do you get the money for the transport, that food and the t-shirts? Somebody must give me. Who's going to give you for nothing? No, they want something in return. What is that something in return? The business guys that want something. What are you going to give them? Tenders. That is why South Africa loses an estimated 400 to 500 billion rand a year, because an item that costs 10 rand or 5 rand, you're paying 50 rand or 100 rand for.
As high as 400 to 500 billion.
That is, the CEO of supply chain said many years ago, and brothers, I've raised this again and again. I've given a solution, which I'll tell you. The CEO said you lose 40% on goods and services. Now, all politicians in parliament, all 400 know that, right? Every local structure, no provincial structure, everybody knows. Why are you not stopping it? I then said recently in a coalition discussion with the Deputy President, Paul Mashutilan, if ever the AM4C will work with you, at that time the AM4C was not mentioned, 2 requirements we will want. 1, no politician will have anything to do with procurement or tenders or supply chain. Number 2, no politician will have anything to do with appointing or employing any office bearers. An independent body of experts will decide who gets those jobs. Because right now, we politicians decide who's our mayors, everything. And we decide who we employing, the CFOs and everything. Have you heard the EFF? Sorry, I have to mention it. Do you hear them asking for a mayor or a deputy mayor or a speaker? No. What are they asking for? CFO, director, municipal manager? So the money is.
That's where the money is.
Why is it all the coalitions are failing? It's about the money, not about serving the people. So what have we said? If no politician has anything to do with deciding who, and if we have nothing to do with who gets those tenders, then I went one step further. This is what I want you to do on a monthly basis. A report outside the offices of the municipalities or provincial offices and in the local newspaper. This is the contract we awarded. This is the name of the company. That is the directors. This is the value. And most importantly, there is the itemized billing that this A4 examination pad, you paid 9.99 or 999. That will be a deterrent.
That's just, I mean, you can just look at your line pricing.
And you'll see who's getting the tenders all the time. But can I tell you what? 20, 30, 40, 50 times I've raised it. They agree, but they won't do it. The Minister of Finance comes back to me and says, I said, can we do that? He said, it is a requirement. I said, I know it is a requirement. Is it being done? He says, no. I said, what are you doing about it? Nothing. Why? Every political party is benefiting.
It's not in their interest, that's what you said, to be able to actually address it, because they're all benefiting from it.
Correct.
We've come to the end of this segment. Oh, wow, I mean, the knowledge that you possess around the workings of government and what are the issues is just profound, because of that, what we call about in this show, that 10,000 hours, and you've got it in this space. We've come to the end of this segment. We've already come to the last segment, and I mean, I know we could sit here forever. I hope you're enjoying it as much as we are. Let's listen to now the AM4C and what they can do for South Africa immediately after the break. Welcome back to Inspirate Business, and we have a special guest, the leader of AM4C, the president of AM4C, Ahmed Manzoor Sheikh Imam. We've been talking community activism, Ahmed Manzoor's life growing up in KZN, his 10 years and more in politics, and the issues that we are faced in this country, and the lack of will and intent by the political parties to actually address the problems that we face with. Now, many are looking for alternatives. You know, you've got the normal parties that we've been used to for the last 30 years, and here comes a new kid on the block, a new entrant, but with credentials, strong credentials of your experience, that I term the 10,000 hours, that subject area expert. Now, if, and let's play the scenario, you were given this wand to say you now the president of South Africa as AM4C. With all our challenges, what are you going to do to address them? When we know them, you can highlight some of them. Firstly, you identify what are the key challenges, and then the how, as AM4C, you would look at addressing those challenges.
All right, I think very importantly, first of all, let's look at economic growth in South Africa and job creation, because you have a 60 to 70% youth unemployment in the country. Despite the stats saying that we have about 35% unemployment, my view is about 40-45%. And if you're going to have such a high unemployment rate, increasing by at least 400,000 to 600,000 a year, because you're giving birth to over 1 million a year in this country. Last year, 91,000 children gave birth to children. 88,000 of those children are still in school. So what a society are you creating? Let me very quickly tell you, in terms of economic growth, we are saying, first of all, we have to enhance our manufacturing sector. South Africa had some of the most vibrant manufacturing sectors, your textile industry, your leather industry. I grew up with a father who had a shoe factory. You understand the plastic industry. You know, the automotive industry, which you need about 15,000 components. And I hear ministers bragging, now we're enhancing the automotive, but that 15,000 components are being imported. But you have the capacity to manufacture it. On the agricultural sector, can you imagine South Africa is importing wheat? And because of the Russia-Ukraine war, but some of the most arable land. So we're saying, I gave a good example to the former deputy president just before he went. A brilliant idea, said he was going to go with me and he resigned. I said, take Sitsikama area. Beautiful land. Okay? All the natural resources. I said, why don't you take one person from each home, 50 homes, let them grow the wheat, put up a mill, mill that into flour, let those growers be directors of that mill. You have a correctional facilities there. Let's put up a bakery there. You manufacture your bread there. You distribute it to all the schools and all the clinics and all the hospitals where you at the moment paying 20 rand a loaf, here it will be 8 rand a loaf. Very importantly, the inmates there, let them work in the bakery, skill them to work in the bakery. When they are released from prison, they can be reintegrated into society. That's why they keep coming back to prison, because they got nothing to do there outside. I said it's a win-win situation all over. Just one simple thing. I'll tell you, I said to the president, there's 60%, I said, unemployment in the youth. But did you know if you needed a haircut, you can only get a foreigner to cut your hair? I said, what stops us from taking 4 youth boys, making them into hairdressers or barbers, 4 girls into beauticians, and maybe 4 girls into hairdressing? I said, you'll create between the two 36,000 to 54,000 jobs. But I'm glad to say that I've initiated that, bought a franchise, and 72 youth have now graduated from us with everything paid for.
Wow.
Right? So, can be done. Let's look at your mining sector. All our gold and diamonds, our minerals are sold as raw. Why not create a finishing industry?
Of course.
Look at the number of jobs you're going to create there. Now,
beneficiation.
Beneficiation. Let's create a finishing. Let's turn that into jewelry and things, and let export it. But you created another industry in terms of that. Now tell me, what is difficult about that? It's not difficult. Why it is difficult? Who you think is paying for all those posters and banners? The Chinese. So payback time for the Chinese. Your poultry industry, you are buying dumped chicken from the United States of America, and the industry is closing. So we're saying, let's enhance this manufacturing sector, and in order to create jobs.
Of course.
You know, an agricultural sector with the climate we have in South Africa can create thousands of jobs. Now, that's just one. Let's look at housing. 3 million people on housing.
Which is the big issue, right? The land issue.
We've got a simple solution. These are our people, right? The Freedom Charter says the wealth shall belong to the people, right? All these people have to be housed somewhere, right?
Right.
We control every municipality in the country. Right now, the ANC does most of them, right? Now, tell me, my brother, what stops us right now from identifying the people who live in your local authority, in your local municipality, which database you should have already, Then identify the land that you have there. If not, you need to purchase it, which is not a problem. And give every South African family, including a single parent family, subdivide that land, give it to them, give them the title deed, give them the dignity and the identity. Don't worry about the water, sanitation, electricity. Now tell them, as we're getting resources every year, we'll give you that. But at the moment, based on being the most unequal society in the world, and remember that during the days of apartheid, what we inherited is a very unequal society.
Yes.
So in order to address the inequality, just give them their dignity. Do you know what economic growth you will have, how those people will start working and building those houses before you put the water and sanitation there?
And then you won't have these sprawling informal settlements being created, and then there's this tug of war between those that are living in those areas, traditional communities, and
Absolutely.
Crime
and corruption. Let me tell you about crime. You can't blame the police officer. The police officer gets 13 rand a day. After 31 years, they got an increase from 13 rand to 23 rand because of me being persistent that they got an increase in 31 years. These police officers live in shacks. Tell me, what's the motivation when a police officer takes 7,000 to 9,000 rand at all?
Yeah, of course.
Their lives are in danger the moment they put it in. But are they causing the crime? No. Number one, what we are saying is, let's look at this. The socio-economic conditions under which they live, the taverns and shebeens that are open 24 hours, the high unemployment rate, so people have got very little or nothing to do, the dysfunctional state of our society, these all contributing. So what are we saying? In every school, let's put in safety ambassadors to work with the counselors and deploy social workers in the community. Remember, no murderer is born a murderer, no rapist is born a rapist. We need to ask what went wrong, when did it go wrong, how did it go wrong, why did it go wrong? And every murderer is some woman's son, am I right? Somebody's brother, what went wrong? So what are we saying? Safety ambassadors, we got the counselors, you got the social workers. The moment you pick up a child is misbehaving, the child needs help, the child needs love, the child needs attention. All three people coordinate with the social workers in that community who will be visiting the home while you're dealing with it at school. You will save that child from becoming a criminal.
So it's proactive approach to it.
Absolutely.
Yes. Now we're all into this reactive approach. By that time, it's too late, right? You're now trying to fix the problem.
You can't. You must save the child. Why let him become a criminal? What is the child going to do when the 78% of black children got no fathers at home? 56% of colored children got no fathers at home. 23% of white children got no fathers at home. 13% of Indian children got no fathers at home. Are you telling me these children are going to grow up okay? We must take responsibility. Don't blame the police.
Broken society, right?
The society is broken. Let's deal with that.
Yes.
That is what we're saying. What is there to attract a child in school today? There's hardly any sports development. Cultural activities. When they want to have a sports day 3 weeks before that they start, it should be an ongoing thing. School must be attractive to keep the child. There's nothing there. The poor mother goes to work. When she comes back, she's got to cook, feed, and go back to sleep and get up the morning. She never sees the child. She's working 7 days a week. It's a society that we're creating. So that's why we're saying that is how you will save a child from becoming a criminal. Do you know detectives, some of them got 200 dockets? Is it humanly possible to work with 200 dockets? I speak to detectives in the commercial crime unit. They have to put the laptop on, go and make coffee, have it all, come back, then only it starts to work. You're not even giving them the tools of trade. So that is what we're saying as far as crime. On the health sector, we are saying, why wait for our people to get sick and buy the medication for some pharmaceutical to benefit, then get very sick, end up in the hospital for the same people to benefit? Why not roll out additional medical practitioners and facilities with nursing for this and centers that people could test? We know who are prone or risk to diabetes, to certain illnesses, cancer, this, that, many things. Why can't we treat them timeously, test them, so that we can pick up early stages, so that they don't have to get
So it's preventative.
Preventative.
So you proactive.
Proactive.
Right.
Save our people from. Can you imagine what a productive? So look at the man hours you lose in South Africa because of illnesses alone.
Look, we've come to, we've just got a minute left, and I mean, I see the passion, but more than the passion, I've also picking up this esteemed knowledge based on your experiences working in communities and having a pulse on the issues in South Africa. Now, in this, what we got like 40 seconds left. If you, again, I give you that magic wand and quickly, right, we're going to solve South Africa. Why would somebody want to put their trust in you?
Very simple. I think we come with experience. We also got the solutions to these problems. And I think if you interrogate it, you'll see these solutions. You can find these challenges that we got. We can find solutions very, very easy as far as this is concerned. That's the first thing. The second thing is whether we like it or not, coalition governments are here to stay. Okay. Number three, the ANC for a long period of time, over 30 years, have taken the country downhill. And when you have absolute power majority, arrogance fits in and you're not willing to learn. As coalition governments and the allied movement for changes, our conditions are going to be very simple if you want us to work with you or with anybody. The interest of the people first. On condition you are willing to change the direction and now do the right thing. So that we can hold organizations accountable and together engage and find solutions and implement policies that are workable, that will make a difference in the lives of our people. But if you decide to take all your eggs and put it into one basket based on the past history of the performance, like in this case of the ANC, what are you doing? You're basically committing suicide, because there are many people that will not want to go that route because of the failures. So the only way is to work with them, hold them accountable, give them direction with Islamic ethos and principle, and I can tell you South Africa will be a better place.
Wow.
Allied movement.
There's it, Allied Movement for Change. You have an opportunity to put your vote next to the Allied Movement for Change and hold those current organizations, current political parties accountable. And I think that's the key.
And we are second on the ballot paper, right at the top.
Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you. I know you're on the campaign trail and you're very, very busy. We wish you all the best on behalf of the Inspirate Business Show.
Jazakallah wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you. Welcome back to Inspirate Business, and on our red hot couch, always, I must say, looking very dapper when we see you in your parliamentary debates. Whenever I meet you, always very articulate, very suave. And I guess this comes again from your rearing, from your parents, your grandmother, you said, oh, you know, in that white dress, like we could just picture that. So you grow up in Chatsworth, in this strong community. You learn the principles of community serving, community activism. Now, what and how did you get into politics? Because listen, not many get into politics, especially from the communities. But what made you get into politics, and how did this happen?
Well, I think it's in the blood. You know, if you look at the history of the Sheikh Imam family and the role that they played in serving the communities in the different Islamic societies, in sports and development in the country, or human rights. I remember I was very young, and we had some visitors, and we were living in a house. You had to climb up quite a few, I think 32 steps to get up to the house. And this vehicle parked across the road, and everybody at home were in a state of panic. And the special branch had come to visit my father. And you know, when you hear the special branch then coming, that's trouble.
This is what, 80s or 70s?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
So they were coming to come and visit my father, and they wanted to interrogate him. You know, and they believed that he was involved in some kind of opposing the government and things of that nature. So we saw that from a very early stage. And because we could see the pain and the suffering that people were going through, and you know, my father and being part of the Congress, the NIC and things like that, I think
Is
it
this the Natal Indian
yes,
Congress?
yes,
Yeah.
automatically growing up that way, it became a way of life. So that way of life that my father and his brothers and others lived became my way of life. And then as I grew up, of course, I must tell you that in school, I used to represent the school in debates, Fairhaven School. And that is why I even raised this in Parliament and with an advocate last night. We have a water crisis, but I said, look at my teacher. In the 70s, the topic he chose for me was water is life. And that's what I went to debate on.
Look at that, eh?
Yes, and another very important thing, because the advocate was saying to me last night how important it is to read, and some very poor school requested some books for the library. And I said, the same Mr. Sukraj, who I used to be my teacher, and he's died many years ago. One of my other topics was reading, which is one of the 3 R's which forms the basis of your educational system. And I remember the former Minister of Education mentioning that in Parliament, and some members of the EFF and things laughed and made a joke of her because we have the 3 R's and how foolish they were. And I had to tell them, you guys must go and do something in reading, because she was absolutely correct in what she was saying, that reading forms one of the 3 R's of the educational system. But be that as it may. So I picked up this thing of debating and into speech things in there. But then I became eventually a chairperson of Crisis Care Line, together with my one former colleague, Ibrahim Sheikh. What, may Allah grant him Jannah, what a dedicated and committed individual I'm yet to meet again.
So was this like after school?
After school,
Did you go and study?
Yes, I come with legal background.
Okay, so you did an LLB.
Yes, but haven't practiced.
Okay.
Okay. I've been doing a whole lot of legal work, assisting people. I must tell you one thing that I've done in my life that gave me so much of satisfaction. Many years ago, abuse of the legal system in the country, late at night, early hours of the morning, police vehicles used to come and pick up people, even if they were pregnant. I remember clearly the one day. Anybody who had not paid their debt. But remember, they were not getting picked up because they didn't pay their debt. They were being picked up because they were called to come to court to show cause in terms of Section 65. So when you don't pitch up in court, then there is a contempt of court. It's not because you didn't pay it, but because you didn't come to court to show that. Lawyers exploited that. And they used to do this so that the trucks used to come at night, pick them up, straight through to prison, Westville prison. And I knew all these people, sheriffs that were picking them up, right? And believe me, there was one distinct case where the woman was even pregnant, 7 months pregnant at that time. And what I used to do, at absolutely no cost, I used to get the information. They used to all call me. They always knew they must call me. So I will get that information. I will drive to Westville prison. I will get them to do an affidavit. I'll get back to the court. I will suspend the warrant, go back there, serve it at the Westville, sit outside till that big door opens, and that person that was arrested coming out.
Wow.
All at no cost, but the pleasure and the gratitude it gave me, the sense of pride, that's what made it.
And you know what you're saying is you're using this amana that's been given to you,
Right.
this gift for serving humanity.
That's what it is all about. And I promise you, I was hated by many legal firms. But I'll tell you something else, my brother. There were days I met another individual. We used to work together. There were days I'll be rushing to the courts. The sheriffs of the courts are there about to read the sale in execution where the properties were attached by the banks and things, and they were going to be selling the properties. And there I am running with the documents to the court to stop the sale. That when the sheriffs of the court see me coming, they know this man is coming to stop the sale. Because we knew how to stop them. Many properties were then saved at that stage. Many properties. So all that gave me the motivation because I could see what people were actually going through. So with all that, eventually, I decided I was a member of the UDF. I was a member of ACTSTOP here, Action Committee to Stop Evictions. I used to be the spokesperson for the Hillbrow Jubei Park Tenants Action Committee because we were living in these white buildings and they were being abused.
You then moved
Hillbrow.
away from KZN
Yes,
and
yes,
you came to
okay,
live
yes,
in.
yeah,
So
Joburg.
your work in the UDF was based in Johannesburg.
Joburg, UDF. No, UDF was Cape Town.
Okay.
Johannesburg was the ACTSTOP Action Committee to Stop Evictions. And I remember that the police that were looking for me, the guy's name was Billings, I think. And he said to my brother, you can tell your brother, if it's not Christmas Day or Boxing Day or New Year's Day, we will get him. And when we do get him, he won't see the outside again. And then again, who came to my rescue? That beloved woman, my mother. Came to Johannesburg, cried there, insisted I pack my bags. I was the youngest son, and that I return home. And, more importantly, I lost a brother who was 2 years older than me. He had muscular dystrophy, which we didn't know initially. They didn't know, nobody, health experts knew at that stage what it was. And so the attachment was more there, you understand? And so I had to go back to Joburg. That's when then I became a chairperson of Crisis Care Line. And then eventually with Ibrahim Sheikh, we joined IFP for a very short while. I didn't really serve them. And I remember there was about 2,000 members of the IFP in Ulundi armed. And we went to that gathering. And my former leader who passed away, Zanele Magwaza, cried at that event of the way she was being abused as a woman in the IFP. And then I was asked to speak, and I did, and I said to them, there is no problem in the IFP other than democracy has reached the IFP for the first time in 37 years. And so the former Shenge Buthelezi says to me, so what you suggest we do? I said, allow democracy to take its course. And I'm not saying that we need a new president, but we need to create an environment for a deputy should something happen. Next thing I heard that I was number 2 on the hit list. Okay. And she decided that she wants to leave because she was treated very badly. And I prepared her speeches when the matters were in court. I prepared the night before. I said to a president or leader, it's better if we lose this case because people now are restless. They want an alternative. So I prepared her 2 speeches. And we formed the NFP in 2011. And alhamdulillah, then we had 227 councillors, mayors, deputy mayors, speakers.
Was this in the KZN legislation?
KZN, mainly in KZN. No, we had one in Northwest, we had in Mpumalanga, but 99% was in KZN.
Wow.
5 municipalities outright, Zululand district we won outright, 19 we were co-governing. I led the negotiation between the ANC and the NFP and the IFP. Well, the IFP, I've asked them to give a written apology in the public domain because they insulted my leader, and I said we can then talk. But I led the negotiation with the ANC.
Okay, wow, you've been involved in the heart of South African politics, and a remarkable story. And again, what comes out so strongly is this strong ethos, man. The ethos of what we've been taught as Muslims, this of humanity and social cohesion. Let's hear this fascinating story immediately after the break.